Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today, obviously, as you guys can see my board here, and from the title of the video as well, I'll essentially be explaining to you guys the exact 10 mistakes to avoid when you are starting your own agency. All right, whether that's an AI agency, whether that's a marketing agency, whether if that's any business that you're starting. I've made these 10 mistakes myself personally, and I've been doing this for about a year now, a little bit more, like a little bit over a year now as well. And if I had to like restart and like do this all over again, these are the exact 10 mistakes I would avoid, right? So we're just gonna get pretty much straight into it here. So obviously, the first thing is not tracking analytics and data, right? So obviously, the first problem here is if you're not tracking any KPIs, if you're not tracking any metrics, if you're not tracking any analytics, any data for yourself and your clients, you're essentially just going in every single time blind, right? It's like you're going into like a basketball game without ever having to practice. And, obviously, I guess like watching sports, right? You're watching film, you're going into another game, but like you haven't watched film, so you don't know exactly what it is that you're doing, right? So, not tracking analytics and not tracking data, obviously, is the biggest thing that I have made mistakes on. And it took me not a while, but it took me like it took me some months to kind of realize, okay, shit, I gotta start tracking my, data and analytics, right? So what I kind of did was I essentially set up a tracking system immediately. So whether that's weekly dashboard reviews, data-driven decisions, custom UI dashboards as well, right? Just kind of like having those like implemented, it exponentially increased my revenue, and it also exponentially increased how I actually run my own business as well, right? Two is outsourcing early. So I know a lot of people will say that, look, you got to outsource to be able to grow your business and to be, and to be scalable, right? Yes and no. When you're first starting off, you don't want to be outsourcing everything. You want to make sure that you know what you're doing exactly, everything in your operations from the back end to the fulfillment to the outreaching to clients, sales, closing, right? You want to essentially do everything yourself. That way you have a grasp on exactly what exactly it is that you need to do when you're trying to outsource and someone does, I don't know, when someone gets fired or when someone doesn't perform well, they don't hit their KPIs and you have to let them go, right? Then you have to take care of that, right? You have to go back into their shoes and then take care of what exactly is that they're doing or that they did and do it yourself, right? So I would not outsource too early, just because the problem here is hiring before, mastering the skill or like the process yourself really doesn't make sense, right? So the action plan for this is make sure you do everything and delegate everything yourself first. Document everything. I would honestly, for example, like what I did was I did everything. I did like the onboarding. I did the client fulfillment. And what I essentially did was I created specific Loom videos for all of that, put that into a Google Drive file. So that way, when you are starting to outsource, you just send that Google Drive over to your VA or the person that you hire in. You send them all over that with the SOPs, and you're pretty much good to go, right? So third is overbuilding, right? So I know a lot of people say that, like, don't overbuild, don't overcomplicate things too much. I kind of overbuilt, right? Obviously, I spent way too much time on building systems, tools, infrastructure, foundations, when my main goal was to essentially get my first client coming in, right? Obviously, I have more than one client now, but you got to understand that you shouldn't be overbuilding, just because if you keep on overbuilding, it's not really going to make sense, right? Like, if your main goal is to get a client in and you're building like systems like AI voice assistants, and that's okay, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You're getting experience and you're practicing your fulfillment, but what's the point of that when you can't even get your first client, right? So don't overbuild too much. Just kind of stay lean. The action plan for this is learn and validate your real clients first. Actually spend your time on trying to get clients, whether that's cold calling, cold emails, cold SMS campaigns, whatever it is. I don't know, LinkedIn, right? Sending out messages on LinkedIn, whatever it is, your only focus should be getting your first client. Then that way, after that, you're able to build more systems on top of that, right? Four is not having a solid price in our offers. A lot of people tend to just kind of charge like a one-time investment, no monthly retainers, or it could be like a huge monthly, retainer, but like zero upfront costs, right? So obviously, not being able to package my offer and my services the right way, it kind of like really cost me on losing more money rather than getting more money whenever I sign a client, right? So make sure that you have a solid price, make sure that you have a solid offer. Obviously, there's one more other thing that I want to talk about this a little bit more later in the video, but make sure that you have a solid price point for all your services and offers, right? So the action plan here is make sure that you productize your offer, make sure that you know it's that, the value is there. You want to make sure that the value-based pricing is complete as well. And make sure that you stick to that one price as well. Obviously, there could be like monthly retainers or like monthly payment plans, but you want to make sure that you stick to that offer as much as possible. Number 5 is being too desperate for clients, right? So obviously the problem here is accepting bad fit clients, lowering your standards for your ICP. It's really not the way to go. That's what I did when I started off, and I just wasn't making any money, right? I mean, I had clients, I had experience under my shoes, but I'd never really it was just like I was just kind of desperate for clients, right? And that's where a lot of people kind of fall like in a trap to, in a sense, I guess you can say. Like it's just a trap, right? I mean, the rush you get from signing your first client, but it turns out that they're just a horrible client. They're not an ICP. They don't do the work. They just rely on you trying to do the work for them. It's not really good, right? So the action step here is define your ICP clearly. Any red flags, eliminate that as much as possible. If they still have those red flags, they're not going to be a good client whatsoever. And make sure to build your pipeline consistently as well with good clients, right? Number 6 is being in a rush. So what I mean by this is just being in a rush to sign your first client. There's nothing to be in a rush about, right? I mean, it takes time. And the more and more your time goes on and you don't have your client, the more experience you have under your belt, right? Let's say a year goes by, you don't have your first client. You have a year's worth of experience, supposedly, under your belt, right? So stop trying to skip steps. Stop trying to cut corners. Prioritize quality over speed. And then as time goes on, then, obviously speed over quality, right? But the action step here is make sure that you build a checklist for everything. Make sure that you build, everything. Make sure that it's good and good to go. Your offer's clear. Your pricing's, defined. And then also make sure that you practice delivery as well, right? Okay, so number 7 is not implementing client feedback, right? So I learned this the hard way, just because you guys gotta understand, not implementing client feedback is one of the worst things you can do. If you're ignoring them, if you feel like you're not, if clients feel like they're not feeling heard, if they don't see adjustments into what exactly is that you're offering, like your services and everything such as that, what you're providing, most of the time they're just going to dispute, and you don't want to dispute. You do not want to get refunded, just because you already put in the work and now they just want a refund. That's good. That pretty much sucks right there, right? So you want to make sure that you don't ignore your clients. You give them the feedback that they need to implement, or that you need to implement. If something's not going right, you want to make sure that you communicate properly and see what's going on, how to fix that for them, and not just for them, but for your future clients as well. So the action step for this is to collect feedback systematically. I do actually have another video on my last one right there. I think the last video where I show you guys exactly how to implement an automated client feedback automated client feedback work form. So it pretty much gets sent out every week on Saturday, or at Saturday at 8 p.m. And if the clients want to fill that out, they can feel free to fill that out. And whenever they fill it out, then you essentially get an automated message notifying you that a client has filled out the form, and then you can implement the feedback on what they mentioned on the form, right? Number 8 is not learning from your team. So this is where once you start outsourcing and you hire in backend developers, you hire in VAs, you want to make sure that you learn from your team, right? Even though you hired them, they still have a one edge up on you, just because that's what they do their whole day. You are essentially managing the whole operations. They're just doing one single task and one operation within the business. So you want to make sure that you still learn from them as you pay them. So not only are you killing 2 birds with one stone, but you're also, actually learning from someone else within your business for free, basically. So the action plan here is make sure that, you empower your team, you make sure that you learn from them constantly, and just being more consistent, right? Number 9 is working harder and not smarter. So I always worked hard, and everyone has that, obviously working hard, you have to work hard to be successful, but you also have to work more smarter to be more hyper successful, right? So, being able to, obviously with me, cold calling, emailing, obviously with all of that in place, that was just straight up hard work, right? And that's how I usually got my first clients. But after that, you have to delegate your time and processes into something more simpler and more smarter, right? Whether if that's like running meta ads to get more clients, and such as that nature, right? So the action plan here is make sure that you delegate your time more. Make sure that you initiate what exactly is spending is essentially taking up most of your time each and every day. How you can systemize that progress more systematically, and make sure that you're more focused on time management as well, right? And the last one is always changing offers and services. Like whenever you're calling people, whenever you're trying to sign your client, or whenever you're trying to sign your first client, you're going to be always thinking to yourself, like, is my offer even good? Like, do I have to switch it? Like, what do I need to do to actually sign my first client? That's a trap as well, right? It's not your offer, it's not your services, it's just the way you actually represent yourself. Like if your LinkedIn profile is like just a blank image with no banner, with no context at all, people are going to be very more inclined to not trust you on what exactly is that you do. So you want to make sure that, it's something else. It's not about you changing your offer or service. It's just more of like a lack of commitment, right? So the action plan is commit to that exact service and offer for about 90 to 120 days. If you still don't have any clients, maybe there is something that you need to tweak or do something a little bit more different. But overall, in general, the services and offers should be able to stay the same. And it's not the service or offer that's the issue. It's a you issue. All right, so that's going to be the end of the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.